All right, everybody, how's it going? It is Tuesday, February 19th, 2019, and we just finished with week two of the AAF. So now we, of course, are on to week three, and we have a pretty good week ahead of us. So far, the first 2 weeks of the league have been pretty good. A lot of good football. Last week, especially, I really liked a few good comebacks, a shootout, and only one really lopsided game with the Legends and the Stallions, I believe, that 12 to 14 snoozer or 12 to 24 snoozer. The rest of them very exciting. Some comebacks, a shootout, which was also a comeback victory by the I think it was between the Commanders um and the Apollos that game when it was 37 to 29. Very fun little shootout, very fun comeback by the Apollos. So now here we are in week three. It seems this league is doing very well. It seems we might finally have an alternate league to the NFL that can stick around and have some staying power that isn't the Arena Football League or in Canada. This seems pretty good. So let's see what week three has in store for us, what kind of matchups we have. There's a couple repeat games that we've pretty much already seen, so that'll be mentioned, and I'll give some facts about the other two games. But here we are, time for week three, and let's go into the Saturday games, which will take place on 2/23/2019. So, you know, this Saturday, I'm going to leave those out of the games. But first game we have up, it'll be at Rice Stadium in Salt Lake City, Utah, at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It'll be on Bleacher Report Live. And this game we have the Salt Lake Stallions hosting the Arizona Hotshots. The previous meeting, of course, the Arizona won 38 to 20, 38 to 22 against the Stallions in Arizona to open the league in week one. So I think this is going to be a pretty similar game, but I think the score is going to be a little bit closer. I think this game will be, 28 to 22. The Hot Shots didn't look as hot last week when they had to come back against what a lot of people consider to be one of the trash teams in the league in the Memphis Express. They had to come back and win. They were down, I think, 18 to 6 at one point in the fourth quarter. It took quite a little comeback, 14 points, to win 20 to 18. So that makes me think that the Hot Shots might not have the greatest defense. They also gave up 22 in their first week, 18 to a team that I don't think they scored in week one. So you got to take that into consideration when you think about the Hot Shots, how good they really are. That's why I'm thinking they'll score about 28 in this game. Even, they scored they've scored 38 in week one and then 20 in week two against a much worse team. So one has to wonder what this team really is. And as for the Stallions, they've had a very unlucky schedule. They got the Hot Shots in week one, and then they played the Iron, which might have the best defense in the league. And they haven't gotten it easy. And now they're playing the Hot Shots again. I think they're gonna lose at home, and it's gonna be a rough start to the season to go 0-3. That golden sombrero, as they call it in baseball, if you strike out three times, the unlucky hat trick. You don't want to start 0-3, but it kind of seems that due to the luck of the draw, getting the Hot Shots twice early, and getting the Iron, who have that great defense, as we've seen. They beat the Stallions 12 to 9, even though the Iron's offense looked completely terrible in that game. But I don't know. I think again 28-22 based on everything we've seen. The Hot Shots didn't look as good against the Express, but the Stallions just nothing impressive about them. That's the big problem. They're just a very average group of guys and playing, and that's what they look like because of the quality of opponent. Maybe they have a breakout game and they don't want to, and they can pull one out at home, but I don't see it. I see the 28-22 Arizona win, improve to 3-0, 0-3. It's just the way it goes. Luck of the draw isn't on the Stallion side. I don't think they're that bad either, which stinks. I think they're just average, but they're playing the better teams early. So, all right. So that is the first game on Saturday. Again, that'll be 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It'll be in Salt Lake City, Utah, and of course, it'll be on Bleacher Report Live. Let's go on to the second game, which will be at Spectrum Stadium in Orlando, Florida. It'll be on NFL Network at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and this game will be the Orlando Apollos hosting the Memphis Express. The Express are, of course, 0-2. They lost 26 or 23 to nothing in the week one, and then, of course, they lost last week to the Hot Shots 20 to 18, looking a lot more lively, showing a bit of fight, showing that they might have something on offense as the season goes on. Like they looked terrible week 1 and not so bad against the Hot Shots. So you're like, all right, they've improved. They're going to be a little bit better. The Iron might just have that real of a defense because they held this poor Express team to 0 points. And then, they against the Hot Shots, they scored 18. And you're like, all right, the Hot Shots are supposed to be one of these good teams. So maybe the Express aren't as bad. They just ran into a really good defense, and that's what I'm going to think on. But much like the Stallions, they have drawn a very short stick, having to play the Iron, Hot Shots, and now the Apollos. It's like, man, some teams are just very unlucky, and the Express and the Stallions are those two teams. You have to play the best defense in the league, like the best offense or an overall team in the Hot Shots, and now you get what is guaranteed to be the best team in the league in the Apollos, far, far and away. So you draw that, and I think that's an 0-2 start. We'll be 0-3. You'll be with the Stallions at the bottom of the league, specifically just based on luck of the draw. If you were playing any other team, Memphis, I would pick your team to win this week because of how well you played against a very good team. You blew it late. You have a bad team, but I don't think you're the worst team in the league. I think that goes to the Legends. I think you actually maybe even are better than the Stallions. We'll see after week 3. That's when I'll start making definitive statements. But because they looked all right against the Hot Shots, but then we have the the Apollos, who are 2-0, and I think they're going to win 32-24 against the Express, and that's simply because they've scored like 70, almost 80 points in just 2 games. The quarterbacks tossed 680 yards, a bunch of scores. It's been a fun offense coached by Steve Spurrier. They're clearly the best team. They won their first game 40-6 against the Legends, and then they won a shootout with the Commanders 37-29. Express lost close game to the Hot Shots. We discussed that, but yeah, they won against a very good defense that the Commanders showed in week 1. They hung 37 on them, and then they were able to keep up after falling behind in the fourth quarter, and eventually win this game on a pretty quick scoring spread where they scored on offense, then on like 2 plays later on defense, they picked the pass off and scored on that play. So the Apollos have a very, very scary team, very good team, well coached, great offense. We'll see about the defense because they did give up a bunch of points to the Commanders, but in defense of the Apollos, the Commanders were projected to have the best offense in the league when the season started. So we'll give a slight pass to the shootout there, but I think that means the Express can put up some points. I think the Express will, but ultimately this game, it's a mismatch, much like the Hot Shots and Stallions are. The Apollos and Express. I'm being kind to the Express in this one, but I ultimately do think the Apollos win 32-24, improve to 3-0, and the Express fall to 0-3. Luck of the draw is the reason the Stallions and the Express are 0-3, whereas the Legends, I think they might lose every game based on what I've seen. But these are the first 2 games of the week, of the weekend anyway. Arizona wins and the Apollos win. Let's go ahead and move on to week 2 really fast, or the second games, which is Sunday, 2/24/2019. The first game of the afternoon will be at Georgia State Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. The time will be 4:00 p.m., 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And this will be on the CBS Sports Network. And the Atlanta Legends, that really bad team, will be hosting the Birmingham Iron in what should just be a shellacking of one team. Let's see. Let's see what we're going to talk about first. Last week, the Iron's dominant defense has. I spelled dominant wrong, like a dumbass. Oh well, that's fine. The dominant defense has allowed just 9 points this year after their 12-9 win over the Stallions. The biggest problem, yeah, they have a very, very good defense. They've allowed 9 total points to this point in the league, which is just incredible, as they've scored, I believe, 35. So they've outscored their opponents like 35-9. Very good, very good scoring ratio, but they have a lot of problems on offense due to the Iron. They have a lot of receiver drops. Their offense is very inconsistent. It has trouble getting going. There were a lot of drives where they just do 4 plays, 3 plays punt the ball, 3 plays punt the ball. It was very bad in that game against the Stallions, the Iron. They had a lot of chances to really blow that team out and only won 12-9. Not exactly good. They're lucky they have this great defense that can keep them in games. And yeah, I think that's ultimately what will be the biggest problem for the legends in this game, who are really offensively challenged. They did look less awful on offense, scoring 12 points in a losing effort. You know, they lost 12 to 24 to the San Diego Fleet. Um, but boy, man, that is a rough team, and that is a team I do not see getting their shit together. I believe they scored 1 touchdown and 3 field goals, and there's not much to say about the legend. That just it speaks for itself. They scored 6 points, and then they scored 12 for 18 total points, and most of those I believe are field goals. So it's like 1 touchdown and a bunch of field goals. That's not going to cut it against a team that is really good on defense and can be good on offense. They show streaks, but they make a lot of mistakes. But the defense will bail them out. And what seems to be an offense that makes a lot of mistakes in the Legends can't ever get anything going. A defense that will force takeaways, a defense that will cause more mistakes because of how good they are. Basically a defense like the Iron will eat up a team like the Legends offense, because it's just a shitty offense that messes up all the time, that can't find consistency. There's never any rhythm, and that's just what'll kill them. And this game won't be close. I almost made it 22-0, but I never want to give a team a 0 unless I really think it's going to be a shutout. But I would bet this game is a shutout. If there's ever an over, when they release the over-unders on everything, I would go well under in this game. This is going to be a bad game for the Legends. I think they win. The Iron win 22-6 pretty handily against what is probably the worst team in the league. All right. That is the 4 o'clock game, 22-6. I think the Iron beat the Legends. I think most people agree with that pick. Most people probably have it as a shutout. And then I have what will be the game of the week. Much like their first game, I think both the teams are a bit improved since the last times they ran into each other. They're about the same team, I think. The Commanders have a very good offense. The Fleet they looked really good against the Legends, but the Legends are terrible. So, but this game will be played in SDCCU Stadium in San Diego, California at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the NFL Network, and we have the San Diego Fleet hosting the San Antonio Commanders. The previous meeting, the Commanders beat the Fleet. Excuse me. I'm sorry about that. I burped. The Commanders beat the Fleet 15-6 in San Antonio to open the league off in Week 1. That was a very good game. It showed the Commanders had a great defense, but that was kind of exposed when they played the Apollos and gave up 37 points. Is that a credit to the Apollos, or is it just, the Commanders defense just looked good against a team that didn't have their quarterback shit figured out? That was still kind of, they just lost Josh Johnson. They were trying to figure out what they're going to do at the position. Their quarterback took a pretty nasty lick at the very start of the game, so he might have been concussed. That was a weird game that the Commanders took advantage of. The Fleet, they beat the Legends 24-12. So it's like they won, but it's like, yeah, but that's who you beat. The Commanders lost to like the best team in the league and looked good losing. And this game was actually probably the hardest one to pick, and I'm going off how I seen the two teams play each other in the first times they ran against each other and how they looked last week. Even though the Fleet won, I think the Commanders looked better in a loss than the Fleet looked in a win. Playing the Legends, giving up 12 points to a team that looks inept and stupid, not good, not a good look. The Commanders, they gave up a lot of points, but they also led the game against the Apollos, were in the lead for most of the game, and had a fun shootout. So I like what I see in the Commanders. They just played a much, much better team and looked better playing them than the Fleet did in winning against, simple enough. I like the Commanders to win this game 25-24, 2-1, sitting in second place. Very nice. Pretty simple. One team looked better in their win than the other in the previous week, and that's the Commander. Commanders might have lost. They looked better than the other team. The Fleet, I'm not impressed by what I've seen. Maybe this is the week it all clicks together. I do think this is a very close game, and that's why I have the 25-24. This could be a game-winning field goal by the Commanders, something fun like that. Maybe, we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be a fun game. It'll probably be the best game of the weekend to watch anyway. Um, let's go ahead and move on to the next slide then, shall we? Which is the quick standings in the AAF. We have the Eastern Conference. The Iron are 2-0. The Apollos are 2-0. And then the Legends and the Express 0-2. Kind of funny how that works. Very mirrored Eastern Conference. The much worse Eastern Conference anyway, in my opinion. Then we have the Western Conference, the better spread out talent. 2-0, 1-1, 1-1, and 0-2. Hotshots 2-0, Commanders 1-1, Fleet 1-1, and Stallions 0-2. And then we have finally my pick'em record so far. Week 1 I went 3-1. Week 2 I went 4-0. Overall 7-1. Very good so far. Just to recap really quick, I have the Commanders beating the Fleet, the Iron beating the Legends, and the Apollos beating the Express, and the Hotshots beating the Stallions. So those are my picks, those are the standings, and those my pick'em records so far. I hope that is a good enough record so far. I seem to be doing well with the AAF, having picked 7 out of 8 games correctly. It's very good, I think. But yeah, that's the end of the picks. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you do, leave a like on it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Leave a comment. I'll be sure to get back to it. I'm very good about commenting and responding to any kind of comments. But yeah, so far the AAF's been doing good. Hopefully week 3 matches what week 2 was and then improves upon that, much like week 2 matched week 1 and improved upon that. We had comebacks, we had shootouts, we had one bad game that no one really cared about. Hopefully all 4 good games happen this week, and yeah, we just keep marching on with the AAF and it sticks around for another year, and because more football is always good, less football is always bad. But yeah, anyway, I'm just extending this for no reason at this point. So yeah, hopefully you guys liked the video. I tried to give it as fair as I can. Next week I'm going to start being a little bit different with the teams. Now that I'll know what they really are after 3 games, it's pretty easy to tell. But yeah, still using the eye test, so you got to be a little kind of like but the eye test worked last week. I did very good. I picked every game correctly with the eye test. So my eyes are pretty good at detecting football stuff, I would say. Have a great day. Hopefully I'll see you down in the comment section after you listen. Who do you think's gonna win? I'll comment back. What do you think of my picks? Yeah. Have a great day, and I'll see you around. Later.